So last week, we gave you the opportunity to write the intro to the show. And Connor from Hilly, Scotland, no specific location, just the country that is Scotland, gave us this.
Welcome back to the Running Channel Podcast, the place where your legs move faster than your Wi-Fi and your brain gets a workout too.
This week, we're lacing up, geeking out, and asking the big questions like, if running gives you a runner's high, why do hills still feel like betrayal?
Exactly. We will be diving into the potential myth of, is running slow making you faster? Mixing science with just the right amount of sweat and possibly overanalyzing why we wave at other runners like we're in a very polite cult.
Spoiler alert, we are. And today's episode comes with added endorphins, questionable puns, and the kind of stats that make your Garmin blush.
Let's get into it.
Oh, Connor.
Yes.
Well done.
Perfect. Although we are clapping Connor, but he did cheat and use ChatGPT.
It's
But
not
aren't we
cheating. I
all
think he
these
told
days?
us to use ChatGPT. So
True,
I think that's fair
very-
enough.
Yeah.
How do we know Connor?
So he emailed in podcast@therunningchannel.com, but also he said that at this year's Manchester Marathon, they ran past someone holding a sign that said, "Run if you think Rick Kelsey should do a marathon."
I saw this picture. I saw this
So
picture.
good.
Yeah.
Well, there was
So
tens of thousands of
good.
people running that day. So
And it feels like I've just about given in.
You have.
I think you have. And just because we obviously didn't write that introduction, just so make it perfectly clear today, we're going to be talking about the potential myth of running slow makes you faster. So we're going to come on to that.
I'm really excited about this week's discussion because I thoroughly believe in a big chunk of it.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I've only realised it very recently.
Well, did you realise it whilst watching someone play a guitar? Because it doesn't look like you've done any running this week.
Oh,
but
yeah.
you've been to a lot of concerts.
Oh, well, so I went to see Springsteen
Yeah.
Yeah.
last week. Absolutely marvellous, by the way. Had such a great night out.
Yeah.
Had a night out with Carol Kelsey.
Rick's mum.
Yeah, for context, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I'm not sure she remembers much past the first three songs.
You have that
Hey,
effect
as
on
long
people.
as she had a good time.
No, it was absolutely fantastic. And then,
Opposite ends of the guitar playing spectrum, though, I feel here.
yeah, I know what you're getting at.
We've got
Yeah.
Bruce Springsteen,
Yes.
you know, one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Global superstar,
Yeah.
icon,
Yeah.
songwriter, brilliant.
10 out of 10.
And then we saw a video that you posted in the Running Channel Club last week
Yeah.
of you giving a proper guitar playing tease of Undercarriage Carnage,
You know
which is less
what?
awful than...
It wasn't bad.
I'm really surprised.
Andy was like, why have you commented on this video
5
so
times,
many
yeah.
times? Genuinely was like aghast at
You're-
how half decent you sounded.
Yeah.
Like I watched it. Also, the funny thing is in the club, it comes up with like how long you've been a member of the club underneath your name. So underneath it said 2024. And then I missed the bit that said posted 5 hours ago. And so most of my like, how have I not seen this for a year? But you had literally
Did you
just
put that
posted
through
it.
auto-tune?
No.
It's really good.
You
It
serious?
was actually really good.
I just liked.
Who knew you
I
could
like
sing?
Sarah's live reaction. it's like, oh my God, what have you done, Rick? Oh, this is actually, I could listen. You know what? This isn't bad.
That literally, I was just sat at home on my laptop. I think I watched it about 10 times. So I was like, surely not.
Yeah.
Surely.
Well, hey, so this is the big question, will I be playing at the wedding?
You know what? After that, potentially.
Potentially.
It's moved, you've moved on the
Moved the
scale
dial.
from firm no
Okay.
to
Soft no.
soft no.
Soft no.
I think
no.
keep chipping away.
Yeah?
And there's plenty of time.
Do you know what I
And
think?
you were playing Undercarriage Carnage, weren't you?
Yes,
Which is the
yeah.
follow-up to Last Man.
Man on
Alive.
Earth.
also-
on the
I mean-
Modern Dilemmas EP.
I know this
Yeah.
I know this is a family podcast, but I just
Yeah.
don't think that Undercarriage Carnage is the song to play at someone's wedding.
No.
True.
Although to be fair,
But it's very appropriate for runners.
it is
isn't
very
So,
appropriate. Yeah.
yeah.
Andy, have you had any Undercarriage Carnage this week?
No, but I've been doing some running. This
Great.
is week one. I've just finished week one, proper week one of training for my half marathon.
And
So
don't we know about it?
I don't think you do actually. I think that's not fair at all.
No, I'm joking. You've just become very keen into running
Yeah,
again.
yes.
Constantly have a pair of trainers with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that your why at the moment?
Yeah, it's given me a purpose. So I'm like, I was still running a similar amount. It was just, I'll squeeze a run in here. I'll just go out and run 45 minutes, or I'll just do half an hour. There was no point to it.
Whereas now you have sessions to
I know,
procrastinate.
I do. There was very little procrastination.
Well,
actually.
I think it's
I've been
amazing what he's
well.
doing. But Andy's why is constantly shifting, isn't it? So, why does he run? So for me, my why always used to be, it was for fitness. Now my why is just for my mortgage.
Well, because you've got nothing to talk about here.
Must stay on the podcast.
Yeah. Funnily enough,
So how's the training going?
yeah, it's going well. It's 1 week, 4 runs in, but I've enjoyed the extra variety. Little bit stiff from the faster work because that's the thing that I haven't been doing for quite a few weeks. Really, I've just been running. Funnily enough, quite appropriate for this podcast topic in terms of running slow to make you fast. I had just been doing the running slow bit, which has given me a good base, but now I needed some more specificity. So I've done a couple of different things. I did a workout last week, which was 8 times 3 minutes at half marathon pace with 1 minute recovery. And then my long run, interestingly, this week wasn't a long run. It was an hour, but I had 20 minutes easy, 20 minutes at half marathon pace, and that was tough. So effectively 20 minutes at tempo threshold.
Nice.
Threshold for me probably now because I'm not quite as fit as I would like to be. And then 20 minutes easy. And I was like, oh God, this is 20 minutes of this. And I'm going to try and run this for a whole, however long I target in the half marathon. Yeah.
So we're not revealing the goal just yet.
No. Funnily enough, I don't actually know for sure. And this time, rather than setting out with it, like we were really aggressive last year and I felt like I was in good shape after my 5K. I was like, right, I'm going to run a sub 75 minute 5K. I'm not sub 75 minute half marathon. I'm not starting from the same place this year.
Yeah.
And so I'm letting the training for the first probably 3 or 4 weeks dictate then what the target becomes. Because when I say I'm running at half marathon pace, I'm actually running at what feels to me like half marathon effort.
Yeah.
So slightly different.
Which is
Sarah-
an interesting way of like easing into a training plan as well. Because I know for a lot of people, we get loads of questions like, what should my marathon pace be? Or what should my 5K pace be when you start a block? And actually, if you have done those efforts before, it's a really useful way of being like, okay, this feels hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a bit like we joke about Rick's paces ABC 4, etc. But I think,
ABC 4.
yeah. But
Yeah, that
I think
sums it up.
you can think about your paces in 2 different ways. You can think about them-
A2C4.
Yeah, that sounds more up your street of organised
That's Rick's
logic.
parkrun like equation. I tell you what, I had to run to effort this week because I did a 10K race as part of the midweek league with my club. And I don't know how many people before I started, even after I started, my watch, I'd like got it ready before the race was going to start. And then I couldn't really hear the briefing because I was a little bit far back. And then it was just on gun time and they like set everyone off and I'd like clicked out of it. So then I was frantically like looking at my watch for the first 100 meters and another guy from my club like ran up behind me and was like, don't look at your watch for this one. It's not worth it. So I put it onto my selection of what I call screens that like are different to kind of pace or
Yes, this is where we
time or
brought in the
anything.
pulse ox screen, isn't it?
Yeah,
So like
so I
pulse ferret
actually-
or whatever.
Yeah, so my like go-to, like obviously it does serve a purpose at some points, but my go-to like useless screen in a race is the compass.
Well, especially because
I
you don't
would-
believe in the
Yeah.
compass.
But actually what I decided to do was I put my watch onto stamina
Yeah.
for the whole race and I was like, right, okay. Because all I got told was that there was a huge hill.
How quickly did your stamina disappear to 0 in this race?
It didn't. So
Oh, you should have been going a bit harder.
I know. I should have gone a lot harder, but I got told there was a hill about 4 miles into a 6 mile or a 10K race.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of thinking that all hills are the same length. They just have varying heights.
All hills.
Yeah.
Of the same length.
Yeah. So in my head, if someone says in a 10K race, oh, there's an absolutely killer hill at 4 miles, I'm thinking, okay, that little 100 meter section is
Like
going to
short,
be
sharp rise, and then you're
that's
off the
going to be
top.
rubbish. And then off I go. The hill was 1 kilometre long. And it was like I walked for a section of it.
Were
and
you
then
at Hell's Fire on Saturday?
it was in Epping.
Right.
And it was so hilly.
Was it on trail?
Yeah, it was like on kind of gravelly,
Yeah, so
like
quite
through
nice
the
trail, but-
forest.
Yeah.
Then all the hills were on roads, but like country lane kind of roads.
Sounds glorious.
It was so
wanna
good.
come and
Like
do your
the,
league.
the views were great. You probably could.
Yeah. Just rock
we-
up as a guest.
Yeah. But yeah, it was so good. But I got to, it was a lollipop route. So you come out of the forest, do a circle, come back in. As we were coming back in, I couldn't remember how long the forest section was. And one of the people who was marshalling was like, home straight. And again, I thought home straight meant, maybe
100 meters.
100 to 500 meters to go. 10 minutes later, I was still going. And when they'd said
That's
home
cruel.
straight,
They've
I-
absolutely done you there.
Yeah, I
That is so cruel when
that's
people do
so
that.
cruel.
Yeah.
And I'd looked at my stamina when
Yeah.
they said home straight and it was 52%. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, I can empty the tank here.
Yeah.
So my last 3K were what I would call a sprint finish.
Do you know, that's a really good tip, Sarah, what you've done there. tip for supporting your friends and family during races.
Yeah.
If there
Don't
is
lie.
4 kilometers to go in a marathon, say there's 5. Just 5 to go. And then
Yeah.
when there's only 4, you're like, winning.
Yeah, because have you seen those people
Although I don't
that...
know, I think if you were like me and knew exactly how far you've got still to go, and someone shouted 5 to go,
Yeah, that
then you'd
could
be
potentially be annoying.
Yeah.
and you knew it was 4, you thought
You'd be
it was
disappointed.
4, you'd be,
But you know people who stand like a mile into a marathon and say like, almost there,
yeah, it's
that's
painful.
at least funny
Yeah.
because it's so
So
wrong.
wrong,
Whereas
yeah.
this was like kind of right.
yeah, you felt it could have been right.
What do you think Andy could run in his half?
Oh, I don't know because I haven't looked. So I saw that I looked at your splits for
Yeah.
half marathon effort, but I don't know what pace.
What it translates
I don't know
to.
what that translates to. But I think this time you might have had more fitness last year.
Yeah.
But I feel like this time round you're hungrier for it.
Yeah.
So
I'll
I
make sure
reckon-
I'm there this time. And I'm just going to sit myself down with a kilometre to go. And if I wear this shirt, you won't even notice me because you'll think I'm a deck chair.
Yeah, for audio listeners, Rick is in a lovely striped number today.
All he needs is a little straw hat, and then and then he's complete. You look like an extra out of Mary Poppins.
I can see you dancing on the rooftops.
Yeah. Sub 125?
Yes,
No,
definitely
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 sub
sub 125. Yeah.
Last
Yeah.
time he was trying to go sub 115.
Yeah.
But he said he's not in that.
Yeah, somewhere
condition.
between those two.
Okay.
Either way, it will be a
Narrowing
personal
it
best.
down. Have you ever raced without a time in mind? Like, would you just set off and be like, I'll just go to effort in the actual race?
That's really hard for me to get my head around the idea of it. Yes, I've done that in races where I'm just trying to compete to win. Mm-hmm. Like, or to, I might be in there with a handful of other people that I know and think I'm going to just race that person, not really worry about, I won't look at my watch at all.
Yeah.
That's unlikely to be this situation because I think I'm not going to be like vying for the win in whatever race we choose.
Yeah,
and
also
I'm
you
also
want-
not going to know anyone.
You want to do it in August.
Yes.
Tom also
But
wants to do a half marathon.
August in the UK?
In
Yeah.
August, yeah, which is, in a word, stupid.
I don't want
because-
to do it in August. There's a confluence of events that have brought
Yeah.
us to this point where like that's the timing based on how much time I've got to train, my summer holidays, some requirements for filming at the running channel. And it basically means there's one weekend in August that we can make it work.
Yeah.
And there are not many races that weekend. So I'm going to be ending
Funny.
up doing a very obscure
Yeah.
half marathon somewhere.
It's so funny in the hottest month of the year in the UK.
Yes, I'll be
that there would
hoping
be
for a
few-
sort of dip in the
Amazing.
summer weather.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah.
But should we talk about running slow and how that can make you faster? Well, actually, very quickly though, speaking of racing or just running in general, and it's getting a little bit hotter.
Yeah.
If you are interested in joining the Running Channel Club, we do bonus episodes of the podcast every single week. And this week's topic is running mindset, which I think is a really interesting one. And it comes from a question of, do we become runners because we always want to improve, or do we always want to improve because we're runners?
Yeah. So
So we'll be debating that.
Exactly. There's a deep dive there for you to get stuck into. If you'd like a little bit of extra Running Channel podcast in your life, then you can sign up for the Running Channel Club.
But this myth, does running slow make you faster? There is some truth to it, but there's also some obscurity to it.
Well,
isn't
we've
there?
done a whole bunch of videos
Yeah.
that are titled almost exactly this, which is like run slow to run fast. Because for most people don't have a purpose to the structure of their week. They run too fast all
All
the
the
time.
Yeah.
Don't have enough time to kind of build a proper aerobic base by running slower. So that's when you're boiling things down into a YouTube title, I think you
that's
lose a
the
lot
thing.
of
When
nuance.
you've only got 50 characters,
Yeah.
you have to make, or you kind of end up making statements that are so much broader than what those kind of 50 characters are. I think this statement in itself is a little bit reductive because yes, running slower can probably make a lot of people faster, but if you want to get faster, like that's probably only going to work for a short period of time. And actually, if you want to perpetually continue to get faster, then you need to have speed work in there as well.
And figuring out where that aerobic base is, which is something I've done a lot in the last 12 months, and I certainly wouldn't have thought about it much before. So your aerobic base, basically the capacity of your body to use oxygen to fuel your exercise, by building up that base so you can do that more efficiently by running at those slow paces, which I certainly was not doing 12 months ago. And I can feel basically where my base is on a week on a weekly fast run. So if my weekly fast run is a Saturday and I'm going all out for a time, I know if I've done that 80% of running in the week at a slow pace, I know that my base will be higher because I can be more efficient with my oxygen.
Yeah, we touched on it 2 weeks ago in the podcast talking about how can you run faster at a low heart rate, or how can you keep your heart rate low when you are running faster? And they're very similar conversations really about you just need to make sure by building your aerobic base, making yourself more efficient. Like effectively, like if you were talking about a car, you just the speed at which you can just cruise along really easily becomes easier, and your body gets fitter at doing that. Then that builds the base on which to add speed. But this is where the nuance of the myth comes in. Like running slow will not make you fast on its own.
And a real life example, you two taking the mick out of my pace A and B, as Andy mentioned a few minutes ago, by me doing more pace A, 5:30 per kilometre.
Is that your slow pace?
Slow pace. Yeah. I can be much more efficient at pace B, 4:30 per kilometre.
I think
and
as
vice
well.
versa as well.
Yeah.
So like when you are doing your intervals, the fast stuff that you do will make the easy running feel easier. Or like if you were doing a 10k pace workout, your marathon pace will feel easier.
I think as well, like recovery is a huge element of this, because for a lot of people, like a lot of the kind of advice and stuff that you see through papers or on the internet or even from us, a lot of that is trickling down from research that's been done on elite athletes.
Yeah.
So when running is kind of your entire life, you're running 12 plus times a week, then all of this stuff becomes so much easier to do, because you can do the 80-20 rule where 80% of your running is easier, 20% of your running is faster, kind of high intensity. Then if you scale that back to say, like, I'm at the moment running on average 3, 4, 5 times a week.
Yeah.
When you've got like rest days to consider as well. I have done a few weeks recently where I haven't done interval sessions. I've just gone out, and like last week was a perfect example. I just went out and ran like moderate for the whole week. And I definitely noticed a difference in how I felt going into each run, because if you just turn up and go, but like as not, and this is the thing, you're probably in like a mid-range where you are running kind of tempo effort. It's like easy to steady, or it's probably like as hard as you can go on that day, but you haven't unlocked the really hard speeds. You haven't really dialed into going really slowly for you, whatever that pace might be. And so you kind of do come to a lot of runs feeling a little bit beaten up. And I was chatting to my friend over the weekend, and she was saying she's just started doing 5Ks. She's probably doing 2, maybe 3 5Ks a week. And I was like, oh, amazing. How are you finding it? And she was like, yeah, they're still all awful. Yeah. But I think that's this case for a lot of people, because you are just going out.
You're doing like everything at 6 or 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Nothing like you, because you've not found 9 out of 10.
No.
Exactly.
And you also don't do enough at 3 or 4 out of 10.
Yeah, so just everything's a little bit hard.
But I know so many people who go out and do the 9 out of 10 just every week, and they won't do anything else apart from maybe, like you say, Sarah, a 7 on a Wednesday or a 7, 8 out of 10. But in actual practical numbers wise, say you are running a race or a park run on a Saturday, and that is 5K. Well, on the basis of the 80-20 rule, you need to be doing about 16.5K at a 5 or 6 out of 10 effort in the week. But that doesn't mean to be you need to be running 4 or 5 times. You need to do those 16K. So that could be 2 runs of 8K in the week for your race that comes at the weekend.
I think the 80-20 rule doesn't really apply when you're not running very many times a week. I think if you're, because like yourself, you're running twice a week, it's pretty hard to religiously stick to something that's as strict as 80-20.
Yeah, because then I'd have to do 16K in the week.
So I think that once you are running a bit more in the week, you start to be able to break it down, because then you've got warm-ups and warm-downs, which you would factor into cool downs, which you would factor into your 80% of easy running. So that's a really kind of important thing to think about. And actually, for a lot of people, if you're not running very much at all, and you're adding runs in, and adding easy recovery runs, 3 or 4 out of 10, so you're running slow, adding that extra volume in will probably make you faster overall, because it will just make you fitter. So there's never like a running slow all the time won't make you faster. Well, it might do if it means you're running a lot more than you were previously. But you will hit a kind of plateau if you're not adding in speed work. And when we were joking about Rick's paces earlier, what I was going to say there is, because you were talking about how am I gauging my half marathon pace? I think that going into structured training, you need to know what your paces are. And the more paces you have, the better. The more like you can differentiate, rather than you just got like a fast pace and a slow pace.
Yeah.
And there's probably 2 ways I can think of that you can define them. So for me, I've got probably, I would consider faster than 5K pace. Then I've got 5K, 10K, half marathon and marathon pace. And then probably a very easy easy run pace. So that's
Yeah.
probably 6 paces. But you can then work them out by either saying, okay, I'm going to think about my 10K pace as the pace for which I could run for as long as it would take me to run 10K. So I could complete 10K at this pace.
Yeah.
Or you could think of it as your kind of second or third fastest pace. So if you want to have your like gears, like in a car, you're trying to think to yourself, well, okay, my half marathon pace is it feels like this. I've got that one dialed in. Then I probably need 2 or 3 paces that are faster than that. And so that's how I think about it. And that's how I've been thinking about it. Rather than actually thinking this is the pace I could sustain for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I've been thinking this is my, third or fourth fastest pace.
Do you think as well? So do you remember a while ago we were talking about warming up? And I think Andy told you, Rick, to go and warm up before doing a park run.
Yeah.
And
If you put a band
on my mind every week.
and what difference did that make?
8 seconds.
Yeah, because I think this is the other thing. If you, by adding in more of that kind of slower running, because what you were doing before is because you love to just go out and hammer yourself at parkrun every week. What you were doing before is that first kilometre was your warm up, whereas actually by running a little bit slower beforehand, you're then able to unlock pace A.1.
Yeah,
B.1.
yeah. No, I know what you mean, and
that's a way to...
I think sometimes it's practical though. So it's not an excuse, but say if you come with kids to a park run, like sometimes you're just shepherding them and you're getting there to the line and just getting
Kids
there.
Kids love running.
Yeah,
and actually,
I know, but
I
you
would
just
say
kind of go, and it's
a
more like
4-year-old's pace is probably perfect pace D.
Oh, for a warm up.
Yeah.
For a warm up. I wore carbons actually for the first time in parkrun on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Did you?
Yeah.
Make a difference?
I think they probably did. It definitely felt. Chantal said I was running funnily.
That's what you like to hear. But yeah, if you think about adding even a 5-minute warm up and 5-minute warm down to a park run, you're running about 23 minutes. So all of a sudden your 23 minutes, which was all at max intensity pretty much for all intents and purposes, becomes 23 minutes at max intensity plus 10 minutes. So like a third of the total time that you're running for on that day at easy pace. And that's how you can start to build up the percentage and get closer to that 80%.
I see what you mean.
It's things like that because it adds up quite quickly.
On a Sunday, you'll feel way less beaten up.
Yeah. No, I completely get it.
We haven't got through to it.
No, you have.
So that was, I'm not going to do it, but yeah.
No, I see that.
Well, no, I have been doing it.
I will not be doing it.
I have been incorporating that. The warm up. I did do a little warm up on Saturday.
What describe little?
300 meters.
Very little.
Yeah. He
So
wants more.
So like a minute and a half, 2 minutes of jogging.
It's a step in the right direction.
It is a
Andy.
step in the right direction.
Yeah.
To be fair, you have to look baby steps.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And it was actually because I needed a wee. but I've been purposely not having a wee, so I do that warm up.
Because you have to run to the toilet block.
Yeah.
And then run back.
And run back. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's something.
Yeah.
That's habit stacking, actually.
Habit stacking,
Yeah.
exactly.
You know you're going to have to go to the toilet. So
Yeah.
you've added in the habit of building a warm-up in there. I like that, though. That's
So
cool.
what the 80-20 rule, if you're only running twice a week, or anyone who's listening runs not that much, does that mean it becomes 60-40?
Yeah, it might be closer to
Yeah.
that, yeah. I think that the lower the frequency of runs, so if you're running twice a week,
Yeah.
it'd be very hard to have that balance like that. So yes, it's likely that in your case you're running one hard run and then one longer run.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry so much about the actual percentage because you've got very little control over that. You just should be sensible in the paces that you're running at. So if you are going to run a park run hard on a Saturday, the other run can be longer, but it should be very easy. And then you've got your gym stuff.
The only way I know how to run it.
Also, if you wanted to unlock, because I would say in the description of Andy's paces, he had 5k pace and then faster than 5k pace.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to mix it up, maybe on a week when your wife is doing park run, you could add more kind of easier, slower running into it by doing your longer run, easy pace, and then a faster interval session, because then you have the warm up, the cool down, and then you also have faster than 5k pace efforts, but then you've got the recoveries as well. Oh, speaking of recoveries, actually, a new presenter has entered the chat and her dedication to running the recoveries is like nothing I've ever seen before. We've got a video coming out with Ashley, which is all about can a workout predict your 5k time. Went out with her last week to do the 5k interval session, the predictor session. And she was working so hard, and then every single rest, she went into it and just instantly started running. And I was like, it is so refreshing to see someone jogging the recoveries, because me, and I'm pretty sure every other running channel presenter
walks the
instantly
recoveries.
walking the recovery.
Yeah, I would advocate
She's keen.
running the recoveries if you can, but it's a tricky thing to do.
It is hard.
It's a real mindset shift.
Why is that so important to run the recoveries?
Well, I mean, it's not the be all and end all, but it's unless, like, it would be very rare that when I was competing professionally that we wouldn't jog the recoveries. Just keep him moving, I think. And I think if you the more intense the effort, and this might not be physiologically correct, so don't shout at me in the comments, but how I always thought about it was if you've done something really fast and quite hard and then immediately stop, hands on knees kind of, or even just a very slow walk, you're not doing very much to like help the lactate and your blood circulation keep kind of moving around your body. And I would feel like my legs were heavier when I then went to start the next effort, whether that was just mentally or not. Whereas by jogging, you're kind of keeping your circulation, blood flow, trying to clear that lactate out by getting more oxygen in. But yeah, that might not be scientifically sound, but that's how I always thought about it. And also then it sort of felt, if you're out there and I didn't really ever think about it like this necessarily, but the longer the distance you're training for, the more important it is to probably like float or jog those recoveries, because that's time on your feet running.
Yeah.
As opposed to, if you're walking for every 2-minute recovery, you can't really count that as running in the same way as the, like, you can absolutely run and walk a session, you can absolutely run and walk a marathon, that's fine. But if you're thinking about the time on your feet spent running whilst training for a marathon, for example, then if you jog every recovery, that adds up quite a lot.
I know
over 16 weeks of training.
And jogging can be literally as slow as you can go, but it's just more than a walk.
Oh yeah, I enjoy walking while swinging my arms, and that counts.
I agree.
It's a great
100%.
No, I wasn't laughing at I was laughing at the visual image of you doing that, because I was thinking you're really swinging your arms.
Try it now. If you're listening to this whilst out on a run, just slow yourself down to a walk, but then move your arms as if you're running. And I'm telling you,
it does
it's a hack.
Can I talk about running too slow as well?
Yes.
Because I think that we've talked about it, and it's worth revisiting if you haven't listened to the episode a couple of weeks ago about running to a heart rate. And it can be quite hard to get your heart rate low enough if you're thinking about trying to run in a particular heart rate zone. But also, when you're like, some people, I just can't run slower than a certain pace without it being physically uncomfortable. So mechanically difficult, because almost artificially forcing myself to slow right down. And then every foot contact, so the amount of time my feet are on the ground, and
hurts more.
It's so slow and sort of laborious.
More impact?
Especially depending on the shoes as well
higher
that you're
impact.
wearing.
Yeah.
And more exaggerates, I think it exaggerates my physical weaknesses when I go extremely slow.
I agree.
Whereas I'm mechanically most efficient and least ground contact time, and therefore like the stiffness in all my tendons and joints and stuff is better the faster I go.
Yeah.
Obviously I can't do that all the time. So it's...
Well, you're flying more. It's like that, what's that that fish that flies when it's being chased
A flying fish?
Yeah, flying fish. Is it just called a flying fish?
No idea.
No. When they're being chased by tunas and then they come out, but then the herrings come and get them when they're flying over the ocean.
That's a fish.
Herring?
Yeah.
Herring's a bird.
Herring's a fish.
A herring gull.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
The wildlife chat has been fantastic the last few weeks.
Yeah, herring gull. Yes.
Well, on that wildlife note, should we move to some news?
News. So I watched the Diamond League on Friday, and one thing I really noticed was loads and loads of athletes have started wearing a sleeve on one arm. Explain.
I can't. I think...
Someone must be
Andy's
able to
not
explain.
down with the
Someone
kids
must be able to
anymore.
tell me why this is happening.
I know people were wearing, at various points, arm sleeves have come into, they're an element of compression where you're like reducing vibration in the muscles or making you more aerodynamic. Like there'll be slightly textured fabric, which is a bit like the surface of a golf ball, which helps you to move through the air in a different way and be more aerodynamic. I don't know why the single arms. I don't know what events it was in. If it's in the 100, it makes no sense to me.
110 metre hurdles.
That makes no sense to me. Oh, no, they have a lead arm, though. So they do use their arms quite differently over the hurdles. I was going to say that in the 200, that would make sense to me, because in a weird way, you do have to run quite aggressively round the bend, which is like a massively asymmetrical, like biomechanical movement. because you're leaning in.
Yes.
You're having to take quite an aggressive bend. So
they were doing it as well on the 200. Yeah.
I can sort of
you can sort of see it.
Why? I could also see in the javelin, for example, because if you've got one throwing arm.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the 100 doesn't make much sense.
Well, apparently, sorry, I just Googled, and apparently Gabby Thomas says that she...
Oh, it's fine. What? It's fine then. It's absolutely. You know what? It absolutely makes sense.
No,
to me.
Any new listeners to the Running Channel podcast, just to explain, Rick is completely in love with Gabby Thomas. Yeah.
This
apparently,
conforms.
can I say why? Apparently, Gabby Thomas wears one arm sleeve when she competes to remind her to pump her arms. So she wore just one arm sleeve at the Olympics last year.
Yeah, I've heard chat about that, the proprioceptive element of it, which I think what she's talking about. It's like you want some kind of trigger to think about particular movements.
It's like
It's a mind game. It's a mind game then. So actually, this is not. It doesn't have physical benefits. It has mental
No,
benefits.
it's just like a little reminder. It's like when breakdancers roll up one leg of their tracksuit.
I wonder.
Yeah, I used to do that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
In my
I
dad's
can
career,
picture you in the backwards.
I
Yeah.
wonder if in a couple of years'
Snap
time
back.
we're going to be sitting here, hopefully, and
I mean, you won't be, but
and saying, "Oh, do you remember when they could do that?" It's a bit like those swimming suits in the Olympics 10, 15 years ago, the shark suits, and they were then banned. You know, there are already rules about the stack height of your shoe that you can run a race in, the length of the spikes that you can have on your shoe. I just wonder if this is going to go.
In my day.
No, seriously, honestly. Well,
Do you not think it's bonkers to remember that back in the day when they had cinder tracks, that they didn't have starting blocks? So they all had a little trowel. And so the 100 meter guys, yeah. So they would get
trowel.
Yeah, to dig a hole for their feet. I'm pretty sure that's true.
I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to
Because
the
it was basically like
stage.
mud with cinders on the top. Like
Noah
gravel on top.
Lyles
Mate.
and his little tiny trowel.
You did only retire in 2017. You know.
Yeah, I didn't have a trowel.
Yeah.
Did you ever use a trowel?
No,
No.
I never ran on a cinder track.
When did they roll them out?
I think cinder track
2016?
Like in the 60s maybe.
Oh, in the 60s?
Yeah.
Fine. So you only just
Fascinating.
missed it.
Absolutely savage.
Right, can I talk about another bit of news?
Go on.
Comrades Marathon happened last weekend, and I feel like every year we just need to make a nod to this phenomenal event in South Africa. Do you know what it is, Rick?
Yeah. I feel like it's talked about endlessly.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Point to point,
Point to
89-ish
point, isn't it?
kilometres,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
a down, and it alternates years. So this year was a down version.
Yeah,
Wait,
it's either
is it
up
uphill
or
ne-
down.
It's all up.
Yeah, so it's point to point, and then
Yeah. They
each year the
reverse the
start and
direction.
end switches. And
I mean, the downhill year would be far more fun, though.
Well, I think
it depends,
a
'cause
lot of
then
the runners say, I mean, that it really beats your body up. Like nearly 90 kilometres of downhill running is harder on your body than uphill running, and in a different way. I guess it's physiologically harder to, or in terms of like aerobically harder to climb those hills.
yeah.
But running downhill does beat your body up in terms of that eccentric contraction of your muscles.
Yeah, also though, the times are just like boggling for this event. Like I think the women's winner won it in 5:51.
Yeah.
Which for 90 kilometres is just absolutely insane. And then friend of the channel, Carla Molinaro, came sixth. And her average pace was 4:07 per kilometre for 90 kilometres.
Oh gosh,
Wow.
Isn't that mad?
that's disgusting.
That is disgusting.
Oh my! It must have been really downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's
Was
a
it downhill?
phenomenal.
So
Was it
imagine
downhill
the
this year?
dogs.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, it was a
down,
down,
right.
yeah.
She's a phenomenal runner.
That's been
that
going
puts
for
it in
ye-
perspective,
that's
doesn't it?
been
You're
going
doing
for a
that for
while.
how many hours?
Yeah.
It's nuts.
I haven't actually compared, to be fair, because loads of people kind of do it every single year. And it would be interesting to compare the down years versus the up years.
Yeah.
Because I think I would struggle on the down. I'd need to go to the gym.
I think I'd just struggle.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
It's not
Yeah,
the
yeah.
elevation that would be the problem for me. It's the 90 kilometres.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does look like an absolute party. The whole way
Something
around
I'll
though.
never
Yeah.
do, but then I did say I'd never do a marathon again.
Yeah.
Which is
And
gonna
here
happen.
goes.
And technically, Comrades is called Comrades Marathon.
Maybe we should jump straight in there.
Yeah, maybe we just sign you up
I promise
for that.
you I'll never do an ultra. I can honestly promise that. From the bottom
Why?
bottom of my
Do you
heart.
not want to discover something
from
about yourself?
From the bottom of my...
you might enjoy it.
You would screw my blood pressure, and I had my blood pressure taken on Friday.
Was it okay?
Yeah, 120/80.
It would screw your blood pressure. What do you mean?
What's your blood pressure?
I don't know.
You're pretty healthy. I'm sure you're all right.
Thanks.
Did you see the way he just looked you
He
up
did
and
proper
down?
up and down. He looked at me and went, yeah, okay. My
I'm
visual
just not-
blood pressure
I'm not
monitor
doing- I'm
looks
just not-
fine. Andy.
I think we sign Rick up for an ultra. Email
No,
him,
no, it's not-
podcast
hang on,
at
Rick's here.
therunningchannel.com. No, Rick.
Yeah, let's
Rick-
not. I mean,
Rick doesn't have a
I think we
control.
are getting beyond ourselves.
One step
there.
at a time.
I think, no, can I just give you
Haven't
the
even
sales
booked into
pitch?
a
Because I
marathon
don't want to
yet.
do an ultra either. So I'm with Rick on
Okay,
this.
right. Can I give both of you the sales pitch?
Yeah, but
Okay, what's rubbish about running a marathon?
But Rick doesn't support you for 98% of the distance. Yeah.
So say it's the distance.
The distance.
And how does it feel running a marathon?
Brutal.
Like a long way.
Yeah, and why does it feel like that?
Because it's non-stop.
42.2 kilometers, which is a long way.
Non-stop. Lovely. Okay, so picture this. We're in Hawaii.
Aloha.
You can hear the sea.
I can feel the mahalo.
You can hear, I don't even know if they have an ultra in Hawaii, but just go with me here. You
Yeah.
can hear the sea in the background.
Yeah.
Pounds up against the dollar. That's good.
You can see the palm trees swaying.
Ooh, I can feel the aloha.
60 kilometers away, there's a cool margarita with your name on it.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
all we have to do between then is drink 6 margaritas at each
spicy
at
margaritas.
10,
I'm into those at the
10k
moment.
increments. Also, at each aid station, there's fresh watermelon
And more aloha and mahalo.
and coconuts
I
little.
don't know what's happening, guys.
This
I'm
is
so
good.
sorry.
This is good.
I've
Okay.
slipped into some
Look
weird
how
alternative
smiley
universe.
he is now.
This
And
sounds
that
lovely.
is why
This
ultras
does sound lovely.
are better.
This has happened here, and Owen and I are just making eye contact from producer
this
Owen.
sounds lovely.
Just sort of like gently shaking our heads, like
But-
what's happened.
Did you not
But I'd
picture the
rather
scene?
just
I was
go-
on the beach.
Yeah.
I was having a lovely time.
I know you two were. It was I'd lost you there. I could, but I.
You need to work on your guided meditation.
Yes, apparently I do.
I'd rather just go to Hawaii.
Okay, Rick, back in the room.
Hello,
Question time.
Greg. Hello. I don't know where you're from. I know nothing about you.
Well,
Literally.
you're about to find out a lot more about Greg.
Oh yeah, there's lots coming though. So here we go. Hi team. I've been doing a parkrun every week since March and have been able to run the full thing since April after a few weeks of having to walk bits in Elder Park in Glasgow. There we go. We're getting some clues.
Very nice.
I've been finding that a lot of online advice for running is geared towards average runners aiming to improve their performance. And I feel like I'm just playing catch up to try and get to that starting point. I go to parkrun with friends. They're all much faster than me. I know I'll get there eventually, but the way my training is going, sometimes I struggle with self-doubt. Have you got any advice on how to mark up milestones in your running that aren't just based on personal bests for when you need a bit of a morale boost? I don't want to fixate on the PB because I don't think it's sustainable to pin my sense of achievement on just one run.
Oh, this is a great
this is great.
question.
I love the detail there, actually. So he's running about 36 minutes
For parkrun.
at the moment, but
Yeah.
For a 5K.
for a 5K, but he doesn't want essentially to have to stick to the idea that he's going for a 30 or he's going for a 25. He just wants to think about milestones on how he can improve.
I would say that you can look at so if you've looked at kind of training plans or like all of the stuff that is probably, you're correct, like tailored towards kind of average runners or runners who are maybe a little bit further along in their journey, you could start to use all of those components as like little goals to work towards. So if currently you've kind of just built up to running 5K, then could the next goal be tackling an interval session and kind of really focusing on getting enjoyment? Because like a PB is a great feeling, and it's because you've run really fast and you get all of those like happy feelings because you've done that effort. Whereas actually I would argue if you haven't done loads of interval sessions before, you can get that same feeling. So could you focus on interval sessions and try and build up to tackling those and get the kind of runner's high after that, or even focus on building up a little bit more time or a little bit more distance?
Yeah, exactly that. I was thinking maybe it's not the sexiest one, but I think you'd find it incredibly satisfying. Like the idea of, depending on how many times you're running now, a lot of people struggle with consistency. So if you were running, for example, 2 or 3 times a week right now, then thinking to yourself, right, I'm going to do 4 solid weeks.
Yeah.
This is what I had to do to build up to even start my marathon plan. I was like, right, I'm going to focus on the next 4 weeks. I'm just going to make sure I run 3 times.
Yeah.
And then I started planning them a bit more. And then after that 4 weeks, I felt this incredible sense of achievement. I'd done 12 runs. I was like, yes, I absolutely smashed that. And I've ticked that off.
Yeah.
And it felt like genuinely ticking something off a like to-do list. Like you get that satisfaction at work. So.
And especially if you're going to parkrun every week as well, there is the parkrun kind of amount of times that you've been to it. So it is a lot. The first one that you can get is a 50 t-shirt, but that is such a cool goal to be like, okay, can you, I know not everyone's free on Saturday morning every single week, but by kind of this time next year, after just over a year of doing it, could you get the 50 t-shirt?
Really good idea. It's a lot of commitment.
It's a lot
Saturday
of
mornings.
commitment.
Yeah.
I got my 50 t-shirt after 6 years of going to parkrun.
I think Greg should also kind of just drop the watch for a race and just run how he feels.
Yeah.
And not worry about it. Maybe go with a friend who will just run with Greg for that one, even if they are much faster. Will you run with me for one race? Or do what we've had to do on challenges quite a bit recently, which is basically hide our watch screen. So put it on, pull socks, pulse dog, pull squirrel, and do not look at your time and just run how you feel.
Yeah.
And then it takes a little bit of that pressure off.
Yeah. Or how many people's spirits can you crush if you are running with other people?
Yeah, that's a reference to my race tactics. If you're going to catch someone in a race, don't just sit on them and wait. Go straight past them and crush their spirit.
Crush their spirit.
Which is actually quite a nice, like, I think around if you're running kind of around 36 minutes for park run, there's usually like quite like a packed field at that time. So actually, could you either start a little bit further back, pick someone out and see whether you can catch up to them,
great idea.
or start kind of around that, if your park run ever does it where they split people up and you kind of go with paces, could you start with a 35 or a 40-minute pacer and then try and kind of break away?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. It's funny. Do you two always have someone in mind at your local park run and you can think, oh, I'm doing all right today because they're just there.
I don't.
You don't because there's no one in front of you.
Oh, no, that's not true. Well, I'm not doing them regularly enough. But I bet yours have names and they're not their real names, but it's like Spreadsheet Chris. And,
Super Quick Joe Whip.
Yeah, exactly.
He's Super Quick Joe Whip. He actually turned 60 recently and he just ran a PB at the weekend. Ran 21:30. And he's every decade he's gone through, he's run a faster 5K. Isn't that a great thing to do?
That's cool.
But he was rapid on Saturday. I've always got my eye on him.
Have we got time for a quick question from James? Very quick.
Have we? No, but we'll do one anyway.
Great.
James, I see at a lot of events, people say use your race event time, not your Strava time for your record. And I get and understand that. My question is, however, park run time or Strava time? As my park run was 20:41, but my Strava time was 20:49. I know it's...
Oh, it's a question is what it is. I was expecting this to be the other way around. I thought the Strava time would be faster.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. But maybe if the park run's a little bit too short, which does happen quite a lot. So this is James from the Running Channel Club asking this question. I think this is such a good one because...
Yeah.
So, do you know the park run where I broke 20 minutes?
Yeah.
And obviously, I go off park run time and Strava time.
Yeah.
So I went off park run time.
Yeah.
However, I got taxed by my watch.
So was it 4.99 or something? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But here's a hack, which a lot of people told me, so don't come at me in the comments.
Yeah.
And I will run a sub 20 in a 5K event this year just to prove that I can do it. If you go into the desktop version of Strava and go into the activity, then you can... I don't know how it works, but you can push a button which is like use the distance that your wearable measured rather than the data that Strava pulls in.
Okay.
And then it changes it for you.
Oh, got it. So did your watch say 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it changes to like your watch.
I think because I know where we are out of time, but my quick summary here would be I would expect this to be the way around. And I would say that the one kind of, there's a difference between official results that will go on to stuff and when you're chip timed, I think you've got to take the chip time because that is the time it's physically taking you to get from that distance from the start to the finish.
Yeah.
Parkrun's a bit different because they start the watch going the moment that they say go.
Yeah.
And if you're in a parkrun that's got 1,000 people, it's going to take you 30 seconds at least to get it over the line.
Yeah.
And then that's when I would start my watch. So then if you're running 30 or 40 minutes for the parkrun and your watch is showing a time that's 10, 20, 30 seconds faster than the time you get given, I think you're well within your rights to take that as that's how fast I cover that distance because I get what
you're saying.
Yeah.
But
what you can't do is run a marathon and then count the marathon time when your watch ticks over to 26.2 miles when you actually have still got 800 meters to go.
Exactly.
That's different. But in the parkrun, you've even if your watch wasn't a GPS watch, you've started and stopped your watch to run the 5K distance between those times. That is a bit different.
All right, we've got to fly. We should debate that. We should debate that.
Yeah, we've got to fly. What's this, mate? You're trying that out?
You're a deck chair. You're not a plane.
What? 40 odd minutes.
Yeah.
40 odd minutes. You two are loving this.
We are.
Loving it.
We are.
Great.
Let us know what you think about the podcast. It has stretched to be slightly longer. So podcast@therunningchannel.com.
By popular demand.
What you think.
Great fun. All right. See you in the club.
Bye.
Yes, you will.